And we're going to be moving on to the second question, and we'll dive into it with you, Bruno. It says, good morning to the PLA team. This agent says that she often finds that tenants randomly just change clauses in lease agreements whenever they sign, right? And she has that situation once again. The applicant, who's an attorney, she would like to mention, has changed a certain clause in the lease where it states that the 2-month penalty for early termination, and change it to say that it will only be a 1-month penalty. Is that acceptable is the question, and how should they handle that? Bruno?
Sure. So remember, taking a step back from the property industry and how estate agents, or the property market rather, deals with leasing. Certain basic concepts need to be remembered. So in our law, we've got the principles of offer and acceptance, right? I make you a specific offer, and if you read the terms of the offer and you accept this offer, then there's a legally binding contract between us. Obviously, save for special terms in the contract that deals with suspensive conditions or whatever. But let's forget that for now. Let's keep it simple. So I offer to sell you X, you offer to pay me Y, and if both of us agree on that, there we go. Now, if I make you an offer and you come back to me and you partially accept the offer, but there's something that you want changed in the offer, then theoretically you have not accepted it. Right? Even if you sign it, you have not accepted my offer, because the offer that I made is not what you accepted. There's something different about it. Now, by virtue of you signing, but sending it back to me with this change actually means that you've made me a counter offer. So we've changed the tides, and now you're making me an offer which I am now entitled to accept or not, right? Simple as that. So in the property industry, and I know with commercial properties this is very confusing for people, because you normally sign a lease that's binding, and then you'll end up signing a second lease that's about 8 times the paperwork, which you sign only after the vetting process has taken place. So from a commercial perspective, different rules apply, but normally from a letting perspective, depending on the agents and how they do things, a person will normally fill in an application form. The application form would go through with some sort of vetting process and a cost for that vetting process. Once the agents are happy with that, the lease is then supplied. Normally, the expectation is that the tenant would sign the lease, make the offer, but simultaneously pay a deposit, and the landlord would then accept that and actually sign it off. By this time, you're pretty sure that the landlord's going to sign it off, because the agent has represented that this is simply just the signing of the contract. Now, when this tenant makes an offer, but he scratches out the typed portion that the agent put in and he puts his own things in, he's more than entitled to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. So asking whether that's valid, whether that's allowed, absolutely is. Because it doesn't even need to be the contract that the letting agent put forward. The tenant could come with their own contract and supply that to the landlord and say, I'm offering to lease the property from you, right? So the use of the contract, the style of the contract, remember with purchases, like sale of land, this happens all the time. The agent can have their template, but the purchaser can insist on submitting something that he's more comfortable with. And I tell my clients to do this all the time. Same with leases. Now, all he did was scratch out a certain portion and say, I don't like this. I'm willing to lease the property, but I'm only willing to lease it on 1 month notice. If this goes to the landlord and the landlord is happy with it, then it's a contract. It's binding on the parties. If the landlord is not happy with it, he rejects it, and then there is no lease agreement in place. And it's actually quite as simple as that.
Thank you very much, Bruno. Quite precise. That does bring us to the end of today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the questions on Facebook and on our YouTube channels. And we'll see everybody again next week. Thanks, people.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.